Welcome to the Real Texas Radio Podcast with your host, Bronin. Thank you for tuning in once again to the Real Texas Radio Podcast, or if you're joining the show for the first time, 1,000 welcomes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, follow the Real Texas Radio Podcast, download those episodes from wherever you stream, follow the show on X at RTR_Bronin, RTR_Bronin. Today on the show, I'm going to be talking about Dallas City Hall. We have to, right? Hopefully we won't be having too many more of these discussions. I dare say we will, but the big vote is tomorrow to abandon or to stay and repair. That's my poll question. If you check out the Real Texas Radio Podcast on X at RTR_Bronin, RTR_Bronin on June 9th, the day before the vote, the poll will run into the day of the vote. That's my poll question. Should we stay in City Hall or demolish it? I also want to talk about all this very coordinated buzz about returning to a strong mayor system here in Dallas. Very interesting who is promoting that. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, now. You're listening to the Real Texas Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Bronin, just a fed-up taxpayer bringing you all of your Texas, local, and national news. All right, we're going to talk about City Hall. We're going to talk about all of this buzz in Dallas about changing our structure of government again back to more of a strong mayor system. But first, I would be remiss if I did not say Happy Pride, everybody. 69. Thank you. That was Liza Minnelli to wish you all a happy Pride Month, or many of you listening, I'm sure you wish that it was over. Never occurred. I'm not going to get too into Pride Month. It feels like where I live, it's Pride every single day, in addition to Mental Patient Awareness Day. I actually attended over the weekend in Dallas a gay Muslim wedding. Can you believe that? Yeah, they actually had a band briefly. I don't know if you'd call them a band. I have no idea, but drums and you know what? It was actually really entertaining, and it was a really nice ceremony. It was a multi-denominational ceremony. One of the grooms is Muslim. The other one is Christian, I believe, by heritage. Anyway, lovely ceremony, very nice couple. It was well attended. It was actually a lot of fun, and I was very glad to be invited and to celebrate with them. So in any case, we'll get back to the matters at hand in Dallas this week. Obviously, tomorrow is the big vote, and if you haven't seen my column on it, it's on Substack. The vote to abandon, sell, demolish City Hall, whatever, make it clear to the Dallas Mavs, I estimate, that the site is available for development if they want it, and any other developer who's interested. I think the majority of the Dallas City Council, plus the mayor and the city manager and most of the city staff, want to make it clear that the building is going out of commission. So I wrote a column on it. It's on Substack. It's totally free, bronin.substack. You can find it there. I also tweeted it out. It's on X at RTR_Bronin, RTR_Bronin. You can see my hot take on the matter. I don't know if it really qualifies as a hot take, but if you're into Boston history, I also incorporated quite a bit of that into the article, made some comparisons between my native hometown and my chosen hometown, Dallas. So check that out, RTR_Bronin, RTR_Bronin on X. All right, so you know what? First I want to talk about, there's been a lot of buzz recently of changing the structure of the Dallas City Council. Currently, we're a 14-1 system for those of you who live outside of Dallas. We have 14 city council districts, a district representative for each. And then we've got the mayor, who is elected citywide. He essentially serves as the 15th vote. And the city staff, including the top executives, the police chief, the fire chief, they are not accountable to him directly. They are accountable to the city manager. Now, the city manager is an unelected bureaucrat who makes more than the president of the United States and has a Hollywood contract with all kinds of goodies and bennies and freebies and stipends, not just in Dallas, but all over the state of Texas, in many other states as well that have a city manager form of government. The problem is, a city manager can be in the position for a long time without having any kind of a vote, without having to be accountable to the voters. For example, T.C. Broadnax, the former Dallas city manager, now currently the Austin city manager, very controversial figure here in Dallas, did not part on good terms with many on the council, the mayor, or the public for that matter, but he's not accountable to the public, so it doesn't matter. He was there for 7 years. So he was in the most powerful position you could argue, certainly the best paid public position in Dallas. He got a golden parachute exit package worth like $500,000, courtesy of the taxpayers. And the Austin City Council, that intelligent, august bunch, they offered him even more money and more goodies and bennies and freebies than he was earning. We'll use the term earning, I guess, here in Dallas. So he didn't have to suffer the burden of any type of election. So lucky him. Now, the buzz about restructuring potentially, this suggestion that we return or we change, reform our model, is promoted largely by 3 former Dallas mayors, Rawlings, Leppert, and Miller. Now, they have been on, it looks to me like a coordinated press tour, just locally. I mean, no, if you're far outside of DFW, you don't care, probably. And most people who live in Dallas, they have no idea and don't care and don't listen to these people. And some of the current electeds and some of my friends in the commentary world, those involved in local politics in Dallas, they're not happy with these 3 former mayors who they think are meddling unfairly and think that they created so many problems during their own administration that they should pipe down. But you know what? There's a vacuum in Dallas politics, and created by the public, who is largely disengaged. And therefore, it creates the perfect atmosphere for these ex-mayors to be able to have this outsized voice. And the Dallas Morning News and the local TV news stations are providing that platform to these people. And you know what? That's fine with me. If you don't like what they have to say, then tune them out. Don't pay attention. Believe me, most people are not paying attention to the, I don't know, maybe the developers are, who are really have a lot of the power in the city. But the reason why we have the 14-1 system, the federal government decided that the old system, the 8-2 council system with 8 districts and 2 at-large seats plus the mayor, was racist. So that was in 1991. Well, the population, the demographics of Dallas have significantly changed in the last 35 years. Dallas is far from a majority white city. And now, if there's controversy. Should we go back to an at-large model? Some people like that, where you have 2 or 3 city councilors who run citywide, and then you have 8 districts. That would obviously be larger than the current 14 districts. And there's definitely less of an argument that would favor the whites of Dallas, that they would be more likely to have white representation. And you know what? Blacks and Latinos, they far outnumber whites in this city. The problem is they're not voting. They're not showing up to vote. This isn't just a Dallas issue. White people, especially older white people, who own and reside in single family homes, they vote for the most part. They're going to show up to vote. You're going to see them, if not comprehensively represented, you're going to see them better represented at the ballot box than you are other minority groups for whatever reason. And I'm not saying that just because you're a renter, it means you don't care or you're not as invested. But I'm just telling, this is just reality. You know, we don't mince words here on the Real Texas Radio podcast. So I'm just telling you. But now, because Dallas is more than 70% Black and Hispanic, if we went back to an at-large system, possibly, or we went to some kind of regional council system, as Councilwoman Mendelson of District 12 has suggested, like a north, south, east, west, and then a central business district regional model, that could mitigate some of the issues that are presented when you have an at-large model. And one of the big problems if you have an at-large model is the candidate has to run citywide. That requires much more money, and it requires being able to capture potentially a much broader constituency than you would if you just have to worry about people in your district, those you see at church and your grocery store, community events. And, you know, my contention to all of this, right? And then the whole point of this, right? Why would we want to go back to the at-large model or the strong mayor or stronger mayor model? Because it appears to many on all sides of whatever the issue of the day is, Dallas City Hall, which has been dominating the headlines for the last 6 months, the Mavs, Neiman Marcus, downtown, whatever, that this model is not working. And you just have these 14 people, many of them, they're competing against each other, or you have northern councilors, the districts above I-30 competing with the districts south of I-30, and everybody is just got all of these fragmented priorities and losing the forest through the trees, if you will, under this model. And so it certainly does appear to be, if not totally broken, at least not really working at the efficiency that Dallas needs at this moment. And I think a lot of people, when they see this gridlock, or they just see this lack of efficiency at the Dallas City Council, the thinking is, well, let's make a change. Let's get rid of this model. Let's throw it out. Let's revise it. And you know, this is my feedback on that. This would be my counter argument if I was going to give you one. If we went back to an at-large model, what makes you so sure that the people who are going to be attracted to that position aren't going to be Mike Rawlings types, for example, or Leppertz, the previous mayors, who some are accusing of meddling unnecessarily in this City Hall debate, just like they meddled in the Dallas Hero Amendment election. They were totally against Props STU. Two of them passed, one of them did not, but particularly the additional funding allocation for Dallas police. They really didn't want that to come into play. And so what makes you so sure that you're just not going to get another Rawlings into an at-large councilor seat? Or what I think is much more likely, a Chad West, Bagman Chad West, leading the charge to get the hell out of City Hall and leading the charge for wasteful spending, like placing a practice facility in far South Dallas, $50 million of taxpayer money committed to that project for a practice facility for a basketball team that basically has no audience. And then we're also building them their own arena, and none of which is going to be ready for years. But Chad West, again, he's making moves because he thinks he's going to become the next mayor. He is the best funded council candidate. He is also probably the most compliant from a developer standpoint. So he's probably going to get their support. Bag Lady to his left, Grinch Janelle Willis, by the way, maybe she has a shot at it. She had the best voter turnout in the May 2025 election of all of the 14 council districts. And that's what they turned out. In District 13, Preston Hollow, in Vickery Meadows. Can't imagine there's a whole lot of voter turnout over there. Sorry, no offense. Good old Vickery Meadows.
What a dump.
Hey, I didn't say that. So Grinch Janelle Willis, she's also pretty well funded. She's probably equally as compliant to the developers, maybe even more so. But you don't think that those are the kind of voices, those are going to be the kind of representation that you would get if we went to an at-large system? That's what I think. You know, some people, you think you're going to get a critical voice like Kara Mendelsohn at large. I don't know about that. I don't know if an at-large system would favor that kind of representation, or another Bill Roth. I think you're more likely you're going to get these phony baloney white liberals like Chad West, who's going to be campaigning on, I care so much for Southern Dallas. I got a wings practice facility in the district. I created investment in Southern Dallas. Please vote for me. I'm a white liberal, white male, and I just want my corner office tower, Class A office tower, corner office, and I want to get out of City Hall. All right, and I know I'm a little bit all over the place. I promise I've got an end cap to this story.
I like to give along the weave. You know, I like to...
Yeah, you like to weave things in.
Yeah, but when you do the weaves, and you have to be very smart to do weaves.
So I guess my point is, so going back to last year, May 2025, fewer than 1 in 10 eligible voters showed up to the city council election. Now we are moving the elections to November, so the turnout it probably will get stronger. I think that's ultimately a good move, but I don't have a lot of sympathy for people who they don't turn out to vote for people who, you know, these people have some of the greatest authority over everything that you see and interact with in your everyday life, from any blight developments or any blight properties or potholes, traffic signals, code enforcement, all that kind of stuff that I know is not as fun to talk about as abortion, weed in Palestine, and pride and trans, I know. But these people, they control all of that. So you have to pay attention. And you know, I've been reading a lot of early U.S. history about the Republic, the founding of the country, and there was tons of fighting going on. The whole foundation of the country was obviously a big fight, even not just in the literal sense, the war, the Revolutionary War, but the political fighting and trying to get northern states to agree with southern states and transform from a confederacy under the Articles of the Confederation and get all of the states to adopt the Constitution. And it's constantly fighting. And then for the next 70 years after that or so, it was a fight about slavery, other issues as well, and Civil War. And then in 1876, the election of 1876, Rutherford B. Hayes won, but there had to literally be a national compromise. It was such a fight. There was fear that another civil war was going to break out 10 years after the conclusion of the first. So there's always fights and disagreements about everything always. So if you think that Dallas City Hall is the biggest fight, it's not by a long shot. But my point is, whether we're in a district model as we are now, or whether we do some reconfiguration and we rely less on a district model and move more to some kind of a centralized model, you can just as easily get crap representation in those seats if the public isn't showing up to vote and doesn't care. The developers, the donors, the movers and shakers, they are going to fill the vacuum that the public creates for them. They're going to fill the void always. So that's my point. If the electorate sucks, if the public doesn't care, if the public is disengaged, and I know we have much, much, much bigger government today than we did 250 years ago. I am aware of that, and there's a lot to keep up with, and it's not reasonable that the public is going to spend 10 hours a week combing through public meetings to get to the 5-minute juicy vote. I get it, but the public needs to pick up the slack here. There's a lot of slack. The public needs to get involved. I'll give you one example. I still think that most people in Dallas have no clue what is going on, that there is a vote on June 10th, that there's a vote tomorrow to abandon, sell, demolish Dallas City Hall. I think that most people, they have no idea. Forget about the fact that city manager Kim Tolbert last week, basically, it looked to me like a lie. Kara Mendelson, and I you know what? Let's play the video. This is June 3rd, Kara Mendelson asking the city manager about when would we have a vote to abandon City Hall. June 3rd, last week.
Is, again, do we have a date for when there would be a vote on this item?
Thank you for the question, Councilwoman Middleton. Today is a briefing, which is the part 2 that we communicated 2 weeks ago that we would be bringing. We do not have an action item before the City Council as of today. Thank you so much.
Do you have an anticipated date?
No, I do not.
So if you want to see the video that accompanies the audio that I just played of Kara Mendelson asking the city manager of Dallas, Kim Tolbert, who appeared to not be telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth. That's what it looked like to me. Check me out on X at @RTR_Bronin, @RTR_Bronin. I've got tons of other Dallas and Texas content there as well. And if you are in one of those large streaming apps, Apple, Spotify, whatever, if you would be so kind as to give me 5 stars, give me a like in the app, and tell somebody about the Real Texas Radio Podcast if you enjoy it. So I think I mentioned earlier that a lot of people in Dallas, perhaps a majority of Dallas, I think they have no idea that the City Hall vote to abandon, demolish, sell, whatever, is on the agenda for June 10th. And to illustrate my point, I've been asking a lot of people in a friendly way, not in a confrontational way, but just in a, what do you think about City Hall? Should we stay? Should we go? A lot of people, they're familiar with the Mavs moving, but not everybody is aware that there's a potential connection there. So I was in the Uber, and it was a short ride. The driver asked me, "Oh, are you guys from Dallas?" I was with my husband. And just joking, my standing response usually to that question, "Are you from Dallas?" I said, "How often do you meet somebody in Dallas who is from Dallas?" And the driver responded, "Well, me, I'm from Dallas." And I said, "Okay, well, fair enough." I said, "Well, I've lived here for over 10 years. My husband now, he's been here for over 4 years, I guess." So then I asked him, "What do you think about City Hall? Should we stay? Should we go?" And the driver, a Dallasite, a native Dallasite, he had no idea that the vote was set for Wednesday, for tomorrow. He had no idea. And you know what, though? He didn't have to think hard about it. He said, "Yeah, get rid of it. Bye. I don't miss it." You know what? I think a lot of people actually feel that way. Despite who is showing up to the city council meetings, it's mostly white people. Okay, nothing wrong with that. But it's a lot of white people who are showing up on the keep Dallas City Hall. I dare say that not a whole lot of basketball fans among the Save City Hall crowd, even though we're told by the the pro-abandon crowd, Maxie Johnson, that this has nothing to do with the Mavs, even though that he said that. He said that City Hall has nothing to do with the Mavs. That's what he said. It's all about being cost-effective for the taxpayers, and we don't want to have to shell out this $1 billion or $1.5 billion, whatever number you want to go with, $329 million. You pick the number, because nobody can seem to agree. And yeah, I think a lot of people would favor demolishing the building if we put it to a vote before the public, and the few of the public who ever show up to vote actually showed up to vote, that is. And I think that a lot of the people who are in favor of leaving the building, or they're agnostic about it, or they don't care, and they care much more about the Mavs, I think there are a lot of our Black and Hispanic residents who live south of I-30 who aren't going to show up to City Hall for any number of reasons. They're working at that time during the public speaking comments, or maybe their reason for not showing up is the reason that a lot of people feel, which is public speaking on the record. Are you kidding me? Most people, Jerry Seinfeld did the old joke about that on the Seinfeld show. Biggest fear in America, do you remember this? Biggest fear in America, death. Number 2 fear in America, public speaking. So that means most people would rather be, or maybe death was number 2, public speaking number 1. Most people would rather be in the casket than up delivering the eulogy. I think that applies to going down to City Hall and speaking. I know some people enjoy it. Some people have fun with it. Some people are passionate. I think most people, they fall into the category of they would rather freeze to death than go up there and speak in public and voice their opinion. So I don't know how many emails Maxie Johnson, Laurie Blair, Jaime Resendez, Zarin Gracie have received over the City Hall issue. And I have a feeling, though, among their actual constituents in their districts, I bet most of the emails they're getting are save Dallas, say yes to downtown, which that's the moniker that they're using. And they're voting accordingly. They are voting accordingly. That would be my observation, my opinion. All right, this is probably a good place to wrap things for this episode. This was a tough fight for Dallas. It still is a tough fight for Dallas, and I know people on all sides of the issue. I respect their opinion, and I understand where they're coming from. So let's give everybody some grace, no matter what side of the issue that you're on. Whatever happens to the building, Dallas is still going to be here. So we've demolished much of our architecture, many of our structures. We are continuing to demolish our structures. That's what we do here, or demolition by neglect. And I still think that even if the vote 9-6 to demolish occurs, as I anticipate, the legal battle is definitely going to ramp up. There's already one coalition, Save Dallas City Hall. They're prepared to sue. I don't know about these parklands. Whatever you think about the parklands, even if nobody is sitting in the City Hall Plaza except for the homeless, junkie, bum, criminal, vagrant, mental patient, ne'er-do-well, recidivist, reprobates, who, by the way, they're all over Dallas City Hall, and the bridge is down there. I mean, they just monopolize that area, the parking lots. So, in any case, I'm just going to leave it right there. Thanks for tuning in once again to the Real Texas Radio Podcast. Keep tuning in, keep listening, and I will catch you on the next episode.